What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Big Five Pod, episode number 14. Moving on up slowly but surely. I am, of course, your co-host, Kyle Morello, and next to me, the one and only Jake Copestick. How we doing?
We're doing well. We're doing well. Some teams played some games after the Christmas break, and hey, we're finally at conference play. We're at stage 2 of the season. It's kind of broken up into 3 parts. I feel like you have non-conference, conference play, and then the postseason. So here we are. We're beginning the second phase of the season. Non-conference flew by. We've seen a lot of good basketball, a lot of not so good basketball. But hey, it's a clean slate for everybody now. Conference play is going to start to play your rivals. You start to play, teams that you're going to see twice, that you know about, that you have a scouting report against from playing against the last couple of years. So now is kind of a whole new season, part 2 or 3 of the college basketball season. So I'm ready to go. Let's get to it and talk about it.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It is a very exciting time of year. So we're not going to waste any time. We're going to get right into it. First off, we're going to start with this game because we do have to acknowledge, we acknowledge this team's losses, the last few losses. Now we have to acknowledge a good win. Temple beat ECU down in Greenville, North Carolina, 59-57. Ugly game, low scoring game. Temple shot 36% from the floor and ECU shot 27%. So very ugly game. Not a lot of shots going in. Caleb Battle, though, 18 points on 6 of 14 shooting. So a decent night for him. And Jalil White, 10 points on 4 of 8 shooting. So also great performance from him, especially offensively, when we know he can't really contribute much usually offensively. So definitely nice to see that. Nick Jourdain stepping up in the center role, 9 points and 5 rebounds on 3 of 4 shooting. Kerr Jungkook, 9 rebounds off the bench. How about that? You love to see that. Emmanuel Akpoma did play in this game too, which is something I know you definitely want to probably talk about. They were out rebounded 48-39, which I will say, having try to do math in my head real quick, 87 combined rebounds. That just shows you how many shots these two teams missed. It was a lot. One concerning thing though, besides getting out rebounded, of course, Temple 13 turnovers. Not like an astronomical number, definitely a number they can clean up. Cope, they fought to the end. They battled out. This game was close the entire time. What can you tell me about the positives you can take away from this Temple team after all those negatives we had leading up to this?
So the one thing that really stuck out to me was, last year we saw this team play a lot and they were injured. They got mauled by injuries the whole year. But we talked about what we liked from them was they could win 30 scrappy games like this. There was a lot of missed shots in this game, not a lot of offense. Points were hard to come by. I mean, we were looking at like a 40 to 38 game, deep into the second half here. But these were games that Temple was able to win last year. And for them to be able to do it, I know it was ugly, but ECU was 9-4 going in this game. They didn't have Damian Dunn. They got out rebounded, but ECU just missed more shots. There was more opportunities for them to get rebounds, and Temple didn't make many themselves. So that really doesn't concern me a ton. There was a lot of missed shots in this game. Someone's going to get the rebound. A lot of, like you said, a lot of rebounds this game with the misses. But for them to win a game like this, be able to claw it out, shots weren't falling. You don't have a guy in Damian Dunn who you can rely on to score. Shane Dezzoni played a little bit in this game. Hysier Miller hit a big 3 toward the end here. And then when they needed it, Caleb Battle brought him home. 16 of his 18 points in the second half. He made a couple of big shots too. Made a big 3, made a really, really tough layup where he kind of double clutched with one hand in midair and was able to hang and hit. But I got to say, it's a good win for them. Conference plays a whole new season. Like I said, you start off with a road win without one of your leading scorers. It's a pretty damn good win in my book. So good for them. They obviously need all the wins they can get, but this is certainly a big one to get this to open conference play. But Hysier Miller had some big plays. Jourdain started this game, does what he does best. He blocked a couple shots. He was able to put in a couple baskets for him. So wasn't pretty, but it doesn't have to be, because winning, as long as you get that W,
All that matters.
Winning is pretty. That's all that matters. So it was a gritty, gutsy win. Kind of reminded me of a game that last year's Temple squad played. They were down Damian Dunn. They were down a bunch of guys last year, whether it was Damian Dunn or Jeremiah Williams, Jake Forrester. I mean, the list goes on and on. They really had to tap into the bench last year and win games like this, win ugly, rebound, play defense, just make it as scrappy as possible, and both teams can't make any shots and win low scoring games like this. So it's a good win for them to open conference play, but kind of reminiscent of some of the wins that they had last year when conference play started.
Yeah, I mean, listen, a win's a win, and this game, like you mentioned, it was looking like it was going to be in the 40s at one point. It was 23-22 ECU at halftime. Just brutal. It got a little better in the second half. Like you said, Caleb Battle kind of brought us home a little bit for the Owls. And yeah, I mean, they're 1-0 in conference play. That's what matters. You start the second third of the season, like you mentioned. You started off on a good foot on the road, gets a conference team. It's good. You're going to see these guys again. Hopefully you'll have two of your starters back, and Reynolds and Damian Dunn. So we'll see what happens when they play again. All right, we're going to get to another conference game that happened between a Big Five opponent and their conference opponent. Unfortunately, this one is a loss, but it's against the number 2 team in the country, so can't complain too much. UConn beating Villanova, of course, 74-66 in Connecticut. This was a good game, honestly. Caleb Daniels, 23 points, 9 of 15 from the field. Very good game from him. Eric Dixon, 18 and 8 on 6 of 14 from the field. They didn't have a ton of scoring after that. I know Slater had 10 too, but it wasn't the most efficient night from him. 17 of 18 from the line, though. Again, we always talk about this Villanova team shooting from the free throw line. Almost every year with Jay Wright was really, really good. And I guess continuing this year with Kyle Neptune, which I wouldn't expect it to change. They did out rebound the Huskies, which I was kind of surprised about considering their size, 32-29. This right here, this stat I'm about to read was kind of the big kicker, though. They had 18 turnovers in this game, and 12 of those were UConn steals. And they only got 3 steals themselves. So rough one, taking care of the ball. They definitely gave UConn a punch in this game. And, I think we both kind of predicted it would be in that like 7 to 9-ish point range. So we're kind of right in the middle there. What did you see from this? Was there something that, I know obviously the turnovers is something they could have done better, but was it just UConn being the more talented team and arguably the better coach team too? Or was there something else?
So it was really just the turnovers here. And another thing is, I mean, I said it last episode, for me, and nothing against Purdue. Purdue's had a great season, a lot of quality wins. Matt Painter's a great coach. Zach Edey's playing like a legitimate player of the year candidate. But UConn's my number 1 team right now, if you ask me. If you asked me who my number 1 team was, I would absolutely take the Huskies. They have star power. Jordan Hawkins is a legitimate NBA prospect. They're deep. They're experienced. They can shoot. They have everything that you need. I don't really see like I said last episode, I don't really see a glaring weakness that you can continually pound and that you can continually go after. Now, Nova, the way they play, they're not a huge team. So when they have Eric Dixon on the perimeter and he takes Donovan Clingan or he takes Sonogo out of the paint, they were able to get some buckets that way. And I guess that's one thing you can look at. But, the way UConn plays on offense, pounding the ball inside, having 2 giants in Sonogo and Clingan, they can score that way. So Nova exposed, I guess, a little bit of a weakness with pulling the bigs out on the perimeter, being a smaller team. But outside of that, I mean, they have other ways they can make up for it. Obviously, the 18 turnovers don't help, but those guys can, at UConn, they can defend the full court pressure Nova had trouble with. They had trouble getting the ball in sometimes, almost getting 5-second calls, turning the ball over on inbounds passes. So the defensive pressure from UConn got to them. But this UConn's really good. They're my number 1 team. They have everything that you need. And on a night where Tristan Newton didn't have a stellar game, Jordan Hawkins had a great game. He can fly off screens. He can shoot the ball well. Andre Jackson didn't have a great shooting game. But what Nova tried to do was take Adama Sanogo out of the game, double the post, show 2 guys at the post, and not allow easy throw-ins. Andre Jackson, not a terrific shooter, but really the defining play here was with about 2 minutes left. Alex Caravan swung the ball, did a skip pass to the other side of the court. Brandon Slater was in the paint, doubling Sonogo, trying to not allow a pass inside. Andre Jackson was open on the weak side, and one of his only shots that he hit during the game, believe it was his only 3. He knocked in, brought the lead to 7 with 2 minutes left, and that was kind of the kicker there. But Nova played them tough. I got to say, they played them very tough. Eric Dixon was terrific on both ends of the court, led him in scoring, and he was able to score on Clingan a couple times, score on Sonogo. Sonogo that I think 7 points, Klingon at 6. He was able to keep those guys at bay. They didn't get killed in the paint, as you would expect, I guess, from a team that's got a lot of size against Villanova. So Nova played them tough. It's encouraging that they can do this and they still don't have Justin Moore left. It's a good effort from them, but you can't turn the ball over 18 times. That's the most they've had since 2018. It's been a long time since they turned the ball over that many times. But it was a good effort from them. But this UConn team, they are damn good. They are very, very good. They can easily get to Houston, make the Final Four, and cut the nets down. They got everything that you want. So it was a good effort from Villanova. I think they actually went up in Ken Palm and in the net, even with the loss. So it's not all bad. You hope you can win that game, but against the number 2 team in Hartford, really, really tough, but an encouraging effort nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. They, like we said, they played them close, and when they got Justin Moore back and they played them again, I forget exactly when they played them again. Hopefully, Justin Moore will be back by then. And of course, we'll monitor his status as we go forward here. But it'll be very interesting to see because that'll definitely help clean up some of their turnover issues. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, this UConn team's great. I'm definitely expecting them to make a big run in the tournament. So we shall see when March comes around. All right. A non-conference game and a win for a Big Five opponent here. LaSalle beating Howard 80-76. Very good game here. Honestly, this is a pretty solid win for LaSalle. I'm not going to lie. Khalil Brantley, 24 points on 5 of 7 from the field. That is a very, very efficient game from him. Fusini Drame, 13 points on 4 of 6 from the field. And Mark Gill, 18 and 6 off the bench. Great to see him returning to his form. Unlike the Temple ECU game, shots were falling in this game. LaSalle shot 54% and Howard shot very close to 53%. There was also a whole lot of turnovers in this game. LaSalle had 19 of them. 19 of them. I'm going to repeat that because it's not good, and they've had turnover issues all year. They did force 16, which is really good. 35 turnovers in a game combined. That's kind of ridiculous. Listen, bounce back win for LaSalle here. Howard, probably around their same level of competition. What did you see in this game, and what does this win mean for LaSalle?
So it's definitely a good win for LaSalle. Anytime you can end your non-conference schedule with a road win like that, it's definitely huge. So props to them for doing that. But my main takeaway in this game was Khalil Brantley. We talked about when we started doing this pod. He's going to be our guy. He's really can be a terrific scorer, and you saw that today. He was very efficient. He made all 4 of his threes in the second half and didn't miss from long range, so that was big. But he really can be the alpha and top dog on offense for this team. Unfortunately, he missed a couple games, had to come off the bench in the Cincinnati game. But now that they're healthy, Jameer Brickus is back, Amor Gill moved back to the bench, and he had another good game. He had struggled the last couple of games. Obviously, it's hard to replicate when you drop a career high versus Penn. Game goes to overtime. You have to play in Khalil Brantley's spot, and you end up scoring a lot. He was unconscious. But he hadn't quite given that same firepower in the next couple of games that he had to start in the place of Khalil Brantley being out and then Jameer Brickus missing a game. But he had a really good game off the bench, and that's what they're going to need. If this team, hopefully they can stay healthy, he's going to have to be their 6-man, their scorer, their defender, facilitate a little bit. Has to cut down the turnovers. The whole team does. But Amor Gill had a rough play in this game where he tried to throw a lob from almost half court to Deshaun Shepard. It careens off the backboard, goes right to Howard. They have a run out, and then he fouled somebody for a lap and an and one. So got to cut down on the erratic passes and the turnovers. But it was a good game scoring from him. LaSalle they were able to make their free throws down the stretch, and then Hassan Drame had a huge offensive rebound really late in the game. I think with 8 seconds left to get the ball back to Jameer Brickus, who then went to the line, made a 2-point game, a 4-point game from the free throw line, and closed the door on this one. So the defense was better. It was better than obviously the Lafayette game, because I hope that they don't play any worse than that on the defensive end. But defense was a little bit better. They forced quite a bit of turnovers. They just got to cut down on them themselves. But probably Khalil Brantley's best game this year, shooting wise, scoring wise. Probably his best game this year. So good for that to happen. Seems like he's fully back now, fully healthy. Now they're going to start conference play. So a good win all around for them to end non-conference play on a note like that, especially on the road. So good win for LaSalle to get back in the win column after the losses to Cincinnati and then Lafayette at home.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to sneeze at getting back in the win column. Definitely something that they needed. Defense still needs to be tuned up a little bit because they're letting these teams shoot pretty high percentages from the field, which is definitely something they need to clean up, and also the turnovers too. But going into conference play with the win is definitely something good, and hopefully they can continue it. And we'll go over their first conference game in a little bit here. One last game to, I don't even want to say go over. We're not really going to go over it. We're going to gloss over it.
Just mention it. Yeah.
We're going to mention it just because, that's what we do here. Penn did end up beating Wilkes 93-61. I know we said if they lost to Wilkes, it would be yeah. But yeah, I didn't even write down any stats in this game. I know Jordan Dingle didn't play. There's a couple others that didn't play. I'm not even going to throw it to you to go over this game. They're a D3 school. They won by 30. Tune-up game. We're going to move on. They're going to go to conference play pretty soon here. And we're going to talk about that as well. For the first time in a while, all five Big Five teams are playing at the same time this coming stretch here. So I'm very excited for that. And we're going to go over that starting now. All right, first game I want to go over. We're going to go back to the Big East here. Nova in their second. No, it'd be their third. I'm sorry. Their third Big East game here against Marquette. I forgot about the St. John's game. It was a few weeks ago. The Nova Marquette game at the Finn. Marquette, pretty solid team this year. They are 8th in adjusted offense, offensive efficiency on KenPom. And they did beat Nova twice last year. So this team has had trouble with them in the past, though obviously not the same team, not the same coach. Very, very intriguing matchup between two quality teams here. What can you tell me about, one, this Marquette team, and two, how this matchup will play out?
So number one about this Marquette team, Shaka Smart had a great year last year in his first year at Marquette. They got to the tournament. Unfortunately, they got smashed by North Carolina, who ended up making the championship game. But still he definitely overachieved in his first season. They were a very, very good team. So according to KenPom, 8th best offense, 68th best defense. With Shaka Smart, they're going to play defense. They're going to press. They're going to force havoc. They're going to trap. They want to force a lot of turnovers. And this team really bothered Villanova last year. Villanova got swept by them last year. They lost at the Finn, which they never really do to Big East teams for the most part. It's a very tough place to have to go and play. But they lost to Marquette at the Finn, as well as Pfizer Forum up in Milwaukee. And it's the length and the size of this team that really was a bad matchup for Villanova last year. And they could easily give them the same problems this year. Now, last year, you had some really good defenders on this team. You had Justin Lewis, who's now in the NBA G League. You had Daryl Morcell, who was a fifth-year player, was a very good defender and four-year guy at Maryland. And they had a center in Kirk Quath who could block shots, was another handful you had to worry about in the paint. It's not quite as big this year, but they're still a very, very good team. They have some freshmen that are playing better from last year. A very good scorer in Cam Jones, who's averaging 16 points a game this year. A big guy in Osa Iguodaro, 11 points, 7 boards, almost 2 blocks a game. And then a guy I really liked for them who's a freshman last year who kind of caught my eye, David Joplin, who now is averaging double digits. He's shooting almost 44% from 3, gives him a guy who can stretch the floor. So they definitely have some good players, even with the losses that they have from last year's team. But it's a very good defensive team. Under Shaka Smart, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get pressing. You're going to get defense. You're going to get length. They want to cause chaos. They want to speed you up. And they really bothered Villanova last year. So Villanova is going to have to defend their home turf this time because they lost to Marquette at home last year. But this is a really good team. They caused a lot of problems for Villanova. So we'll see if they can bounce back from last year's loss. But they were just a mismatch, size, length, athleticism wise, and it really bothered the Wildcats last year. So it's going to be a good game. I think Villanova will bounce back here and will defend their home turf. They played UConn very tough. I think they can win a close one here, but this Marquette team is very, very good. They are maybe not as good as they were last year because they did have a good team, but they're right on the button there. They really are. So it's going to be another tough matchup. The Big East is a great conference, pretty much top to bottom. They're going to get another test at home here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, listen, the Big East is always that one conference because we talk about the Power Five a lot in football, and there is no Big East in football, obviously, at least not anymore. There used to be. the Big East is that one conference in basketball that it's just basketball. There's no football. I mean, some of those teams obviously have football schools or football programs rather, but the conference is known for its basketball. It's the one conference that I think that you can really, really say that. It's exciting. All the teams are not all the teams are quality, but a lot of the teams top to bottom are quality. It usually is up there among the most bids in the NCAA tournament every year, along with those major conferences. And Marquette's one of those teams. Marquette is definitely a very, very good team. And Shaka Smart has found himself in another good situation. I know Texas wasn't the best for him. Obviously, he made a couple Final Fours with VCU. Listen, this will be a tough matchup, so I'm very excited to see that. All right, New Year's Eve. That is on Saturday. I cannot believe we're already at the end of the year already. That's insane. LaSalle at VCU. We have seen this VCU team before. They took on Temple, and Temple won that one. VCU is 109th in KenPom. Not too shabby. Not bad. The A10's not the best year this year. We're going to see a lot more A10, though, because we have two teams from the Big Five in the A10, obviously. So we'll talk about them a lot. And, of course, VCU is led by our guy, Ace Baldwin. He played pretty well against Temple when they played about a month or so ago. So we definitely, I think LaSalle can match up fairly well with this VCU team. I know VCU is a fairly guard-heavy team too, and LaSalle is the same way, though they have some other size in their depth department, not necessarily in their stars. But this will be a very interesting game as LaSalle kicks off A10 play here. How do you see this one playing out?
So unfortunately for LaSalle, I do think this is a tough spot for them. They haven't beaten VCU since 2015, so it's been a while since they've been able to get a win over the Rams. Shaka Smart was actually, a nice segue here going from game to game. The last time LaSalle was able to beat VCU was when Shaka Smart was still the coach of the Rams. So it's a nice little nugget for you. But unfortunately for LaSalle, their weaknesses just kind of play into VCU's strengths because VCU is not a terrific offensive team. They don't shoot threes well. They have Ace Baldwin, Jaden Nunn, Jameer Watkins. They have some guys that can get inside and create a little bit, but it's not an overwhelming offensive team. With VCU, it really doesn't matter whether it's Will Wade, Shaka Smart, whether it's Mike Rhodes now. They're going to play defense. It's what they're going to do. They're top 50 right now in KenPom. Defensive efficiency, turnover percentage, steal percentage, non-steal turnover percentage, block percentage, and 2-point defense. They're a defensive team, and that's what they're going to do. That's what they always have been. And unfortunately for LaSalle, they like to turn the ball over a lot. And I think it kind of plays right into it. They're into what VCU does well, because like I said, they're not a spectacular offensive team. They're going to play off their defense. So if LaSalle is going to turn the ball over here, in addition to kind of give up some easy buckets to this VCU team, then I think they might be in for a long day. But if they're going to win, literally turnovers is what is going to decide this game, because they're going to go play at the Siegel Center, notoriously a pretty tough place to play, and they're going to get pressed probably the entire game. So they're going to have pressure in their face all 40 minutes. And if they turn the ball over a lot here, they give away a lot of easy layups, a lot of transition opportunities. That's probably going to sink them. So unfortunately for LaSalle, their weaknesses is kind of playing to the strengths of VCU. That's kind of how I see this game going. Historically, this isn't a team they have success against. Siegel Center, historically not a place that they have success going to. So I'll take VCU here. It all kind of depends. I think this is a close game if LaSalle doesn't turn it over. But I saw VCU play at Tom Goal Arena last year, and they kind of beat the crap out of them because they turned the ball over a lot, and VCU is kind of getting what they wanted. So I hope LaSalle can keep this close. It's just that their weakness is playing the strengths of VCU. Got to go on the road, start a conference play, tough place to play. Not really the recipe for a win there for LaSalle. So I do think VCU wins this game, even though Temple just kind of went down to that DMV area and got a win. I don't think they will go there on New Year's Eve and snag another one.
Yeah, I mean, as John Rothstein notes plenty, Siegel Center is a very, very, very tough place to play. So that will be an interesting environment for LaSalle, but we'll see what happens. I mean, listen, they would love to mirror Temple and Villanova so far and kick off their conference play with a win. Doing so on the road too at the Siegel Center against this VCU team would be pretty impressive. So we'll see what happens. Another New Year's Eve game, another A10 game. St. Louis taking on St. Joe's. St. Louis, decent team this year, though they've had some slip ups lately, and I'm going to let you get into that a little bit when I toss to you. They're 73rd in Ken Palm, which is definitely not bad. They're led by another great college basketball name. You ready for this? And you know where I'm going with this. Gibson Jimerson. Gibson Jimerson. We've had some great names on the show so far. And Gibson Jimerson. I don't think he's the top. I think Coltrane definitely is still the top from Drexel, but 12.7 points per game. He's their main guy. Is this St. Louis team a team that St. Joe's should fear? Considering that, they are pretty high up in Ken Palm, decently high up in Ken Palm, but they've had some slip ups lately. They've lost to some not great teams. And St. Joe's now has a couple wins under their belt the last couple games, though, against inferior opponents. Is this St. Louis team a team that St. Joe's should be like, eh?
So there are aspects of the way they play that you could say that, but I mean, clean slate, conference play just started. I'm going to say no. This St. Louis team just lost to Southern Illinois Edwardsville in their home court the other day. I don't think this is a team to fear at all. And guess what? The A-10 is wide open as far as I'm concerned. We thought Dayton was going to be good. They have some injuries. They've dropped a bunch of games. We thought St. Louis was going to be very good. Maybe start out the year ranked or close to that. They've lost a bunch of games. Iona ran them out the gym in New Rochelle. They lost to Boise State. They just lost that game at home to SIU Edwardsville. So the A-10 is wide open. Then we have Fordham that starts out 12-1. Davidson runs them off their home court yesterday. So it's wide open to me. And I think it doesn't matter how you finished. If you're St. Joe's, who's kind of been toward the bottom, we're at the bottom the last couple of years. It doesn't matter. It seems like the conference is wide open as far as I'm concerned. So I'm going to go with no. They should definitely not fear them. It's at home. It's at Hagen Arena. But this is a very good team. You bring up Gibson Jimerson. Good thing he's got Jimmer in his last name because that's the type of range this guy has and how prolific of a three-point shooter is. He's got a very, very good form, very fundamentally sound shot, career 40% three-point shooter. I mean, he's the real deal as far as three-point shooters go. He's definitely one of the best in the A-10. And then career-wise, I mean, he's one of the best in the country as well. So he definitely lives up to his name. But the difference here for me is you have a St. Joe's team that's pretty young. Eric Reynolds is a sophomore. They have some guys that are young on this team that are very good. Eric Reynolds, I believe he's a sophomore. If not, just the youth of this team. They're going to play Rasheer Fleming. They're going to play other guys that aren't exactly. Lynn Greer hasn't been on the court a ton, even though he was at Dayton. And they're going up against the team in St. Louis that's the 11th oldest as far as experience goes in Division I. So not only do you have that, these guys, they average over 3 years of experience between everybody. It's the average on this team, but they have guys that they have a lot of a big veteran lineup here. Francis Okoro from Oregon, who's in his fourth year. Yuri Collins is, you could probably make the argument, the best pure point guard in college basketball. He's good on the defensive end, stealing the ball, and he averages 10 assists a game. Like how crazy is that? He averages 10 assists a game. He's terrific. His assist to turnover ratio is low. Travis Ford's been there a while. Is a pretty damn good coach, in my opinion. So you have a veteran team here, a very, very good point guard. We know it's all about guard play when you get into the postseason here, and that's what you need to be successful. They have a very good one. They have a guy in Gibson Jimerson that can shoot. They have a guy in Javante Perkins who averaged 17 points a game 2 years ago, and then right before the season started last year, tore his ACL. Unfortunately, had to miss the year, but he's back this year, still averaging double digits. So this is a good team. It's a veteran team. I think that could maybe get the best of St. Joe's here, but this is a home game. Honestly, who knows what can happen in the A-10 this year? It is so wide open.
True.
Who knows what can happen? So long story short, to answer your question, I don't think this is a team that they should fear. Yes, they're a veteran group. They have a coach who's been there for a long time, who's been to the NCAA tournament. Some very good veteran players on this team, but the A-10 is wide open as far as I'm concerned. New season, conference play started. We'll see what this team's made of because they have played some pretty low teams recently with their 2 bye games they played last week or the week before. So we're going to find out about the St. Joe's team. I really like the effort they play with in the Villanova game. If they can play like that all the time, if they can play like they did in the first half of that game, they could really be a threat to some teams. So we're going to see how they fare here. This is projected to be a top 2 team in the A-10 preseason. They get him at home to start conference play. We're going to see what they're made of in this game.
Yeah, we will see what they're made of. This will be a good test for them off the bat in the A10. So I'm excited for that. All right, we're gonna turn the calendar to 2023. Wow. And we're gonna start off our new year with a game on North Broad, Temple versus Cincinnati. To kick off not to kick off A10 play. I'm sorry, their second game of A10 play. And we've seen the Cincinnati team before. Some common opponents so far in this episode. Cincinnati played LaSalle a few weeks ago. They beat him by like 18 points. I think it was 78-60. Cincinnati 94th in Ken Palm. Again, not a bad team at all. Not like a great team, but they're solid. They're led by David DeJulius. He's averaging 16.6 points per game. We of course went over him on that episode when they played LaSalle too. But definitely he's having a really good season. He's definitely their lead guy, and he's the one who's going to be attacking this Temple defense the most. And this Temple defense, as we talked about, while they did play better against ECU, though that could also be contributed to ECU missing a lot of shots, they have been gashed before too. They let up 86 points in Maryland Eastern Shore at home, remember. So this could be a tough matchup for them. But then again, Temple, talent-wise, isn't necessarily a bad team either. They just have to put it all together. So how do you see this one playing out at the Liacouras Center?
So here, I'll say this. I will give Temple another chance here because I do think that Damian Dunn will get cleared in time to play for this game.
Okay.
I'm going to give them another chance, and I think that they squeak by with a win here at home. They went 2-0 versus Cincinnati last year in conference play. They were able to beat them twice, beat them at the Liacouras Center. Now, of course, this is a way better Cincinnati team than last year. Victor Lockins steps in at center. He really didn't play at all in the 2 games last year. They had other guys ahead of him. So they have him emerging now. They bring in another scorer like Landers Nolly to kind of take the scoring load off of just David DeJulius. But if you give me Damian Dunn back for this game, and these games weren't exactly pretty in scoring in the 80s and the 90s. They won 61-58 game 1, 75-71. Second matchup's a little bit more high scoring, but it was a pretty ugly one at the Liacouras Center. But that's what this team did. That's how they won. So I will give Temple one more chance because they were 2-0 against this team last year. They're at home. Hopefully Damian Dunn comes back. They responded well. It wasn't pretty, but they responded well winning the East Carolina game. I do think that they'll win this one. I will give them one more chance because if there's one thing that we've learned about this Temple team, it's that whenever we think they can get a big win, they can string some together. Like I've probably said a billion times during this pod, they can string together some wins, get on a streak. They disappoint us. So I will believe in them one more time.
When they think we're out, they pull us back in.
They pull us back in. So I think they'll win here. Might be ugly. Will be a close one for sure. I think this will be a close game. But we talked about Temple turning the ball over a lot this year, much like LaSalle. How did Cincinnati beat LaSalle the last time? They turned them over 25 times. So if you're Temple, let's not do that. Let's not turn the ball over a ton of times. But, with Damian Dunn coming back, we hope that he's a full strength now. You never want to see somebody get an injury, let alone a head injury like that. And he kind of got elbowed and then fell down on the floor and didn't look good. So I hope that he's cleared in time for this game. That's something that we'll have to keep tabs on. But let's see if they can get it rolling here. I mean, 2 wins to start conference play, I think would be big. They're going to have to defend the post. We got to see what that center rotation is. We saw Akpomo start last game. We saw Nick Jourdain get a lot of minutes. Cord John Cooch had been starting, now came off the bench. That's something to continue to keep our eye on. With a team like Cincinnati's going to play with a legit big like Victor Lockton against a team like ECU that doesn't really have a legit big as him. It made sense, I guess, to start. Well, I shouldn't say that. Akpomo only played a couple minutes. ECU doesn't really have like true big men like Cincinnati does with Locken, which I think led to John Cooch and Jourdain playing more minutes. But if they're going to have Victor Locken out there a lot, I think having a bigger guy like Akpomo out there maybe isn't such a bad idea to have another body to throw at him. So the centers is something that we're going to continue to look at, especially for a game like this, because Victor Locken's been playing very well for Cincinnati. But the defense is going to have to be big. Jaleel White had a huge contest and forced a very tough layup that was missed by an ECU player at the end of their game to kind of seal him to win. he's going to have to probably be stuck guarding Landers Nolly or Jeremiah Davenport on the perimeter and shut them down. But I think Temple squeaks by with a win here. I hope they don't disappoint me. I hope they don't disappoint me. I hope they don't disappoint me. But I'm going to roll with
Write it 50 times on the chalkboard.
Yeah,
Hopefully that'll
I'll
help.
just write it over and over and over and over and over again. But I think they'll squeak one out here at home. Starting conference play at home. They were 2-0 against them last year. They beat them in a close one at Lee Core Center. I think they can get them here. But Damian Dunn's health is very key to this game. As soon as we can get any news on that, we'll try and find it. But we hope that he can play. And if he plays, I think Temple gets the win. Wow. It was I apologize. I got to summarize my thoughts.
Hey, that's okay. Listen, I mean, I'm not ready to jump back on the Temple ship yet. I need them to prove it to me consistently a little bit. So if they win this game against Cincinnati at home,
you can.
I'll put 1 foot back in. I'll put 1 foot back in. Right now, I got a hand on like the guardrail right now. Okay. Like I'm peeking. I'm not gonna step a foot in yet because they do need to prove it to me. And this Cincinnati team is definitely not bad. They can definitely make a good game out of this. So we'll see what happens. But that's where I stand with the Owls right now. So we'll see. One final game to go over for this episode here. This is on Monday, January 2nd. Since we will be recording on Monday, January 2nd, we're not going to be able to go over this game for the next episode. So we're going to do it now. Penn taking on Brown at Brown. Brown, not a great team, 207 in KenPom. I don't know a ton about this team, to be honest with you. I know that Penn probably should win this game, though they have some health issues, obviously. I'm not sure if Clark Slackert will play. You can update me on that too if you know anything. Dingle didn't play last game. I'm expecting to this game. I think, it's been like 3 weeks really since they played anyone real, since the Temple game. So definitely a good time off for Penn to get a little healthy. And hopefully that kickstarts their Ivy League season because they really have a chance to make some real noise in the Ivy League, potentially win it and get to the NCAA tournament. So where does this game, where do you see this game going in terms of, them? I know they had the tune-up game against Wilkes, but is this like another tune-up game or will Brown give them a run for this month, from a run for their money?
Well, I think they could definitely give them a run for their money. You look at how long it's been. Now, they did just play. They played somebody in Wilkes, but it wasn't a D1 team.
They stepped on the floor for 40 minutes.
Yeah, they did. And Clark Slackert is back. It's good that they had, I guess, a game like that so he could at least get back out there for the first time in almost a month. So Clark Slackert did play the last game, so he will be available and be healthy. And that's going to be huge because they're going to need somebody else to score. And I'm not saying that they need others to score 20, like I've said the whole season when he's out. But when you have a guy like that who can consistently put up numbers and make shots, obviously it's huge for them. But this is a game that I think they win. I think Penn needs to kind of impose their will and be like, hey, there's a reason why we're the favorite in this league. There's a reason why they're kind of always picked. It's usually Penn, Princeton, Yale, Harvard, somewhere in that order as the top 4 in the league, kind of solidify why they are a top 4 team in this conference. And in my opinion, why they are the best team in the Ivy League here. So even on the road, not having played another Division I team in about 3 weeks, I still think they get it done here. This Brown team, now that they did have a win over Bryant, they're not a slouch. This isn't like a 300 team that you're gonna 300 KenPom team that you're gonna play against. And it's conference play. Anything can happen. That's why they play the games. Last year, Jalen Gainey, one of the big guys, almost 10 points, over 2 blocks a game. He transfers to Florida State. However, they still have Keno Lilly Jr. there, 14 points, 36% from the 3-point line. He's going to be their main guy on offense. And that's kind of where it starts on offense with them. They're 306th in KenPom in offense. This is not a very good team. And another stat, they are in the 300s, in which they happen to be 353rd, which is good for dead last in Division I. They are the worst free throw shooting team in America. So if the game's close and it comes to a free throw shootout, I like Penn having to put Max Martz and Jordan Dingle and Slackert on the line as opposed to literally anybody from Brown. So I thought that was a stat that's worth noting.
Did not know that.
Hey,
wow.
You gotta be able to make free throws if you want to win close games, or especially in Brown's case, if you're on your home floor, you're holding a short lead against 2 very dynamic scoring guards. got to be able to make your free throws and put a team away. So given that, I do think that Penn wins this game. However, like I said, Brown, bad offense, but in Penn's case, they're actually the worst team in Division One as far
That's
as
brutal.
non-steal turnover, like forcing non-steal turnover. So bad passes, offensive fouls, pass that go out of bounds, shot clock violations, stuff like that. Not putting a ton of pressure, obviously, with that stat on defenses. So I think Penn gets it done. I think overall they're the better team. They shoot free throws a whole lot better than Brown, obviously. But when you go on the road in conference play, it's hard to win. Doesn't matter what conference you're in when you got to travel and you got to go somewhere else. It's hard to win anywhere. But I do think that they'll get a win here. And I think it's a good game, not only from Jordan Dingle, but a good game from Clark Slackard as well, who got his feet wet in the Wilkes game. He comes back for conference play, has a little bit of burn under him. I think it's a good game from both those two guys to kick off conference play for the Quakers, where it's a disappointment, in my opinion. Anything besides making a tournament this year out of the Ivy League for Penn is a disappointment. This is a very good team, two damn good scoring guards. They got to prove it here and start out 1-0 in conference play, and I believe they will.
It's a bold statement, but I don't disagree with you. I mean, they have the talent to do it in terms of, the Ivy League, obviously. And Jordan Dingle's probably a legitimate NBA prospect too. So, yeah, I mean, I think they pick up the win here. I don't think there's any reason why they shouldn't pick up the win here. They just have to take care of the ball and shoot relatively efficient, which I think they will, because this Penn defense, or this Brown defense, like you said, not the best in the world. So yeah, I think it's going to be a Penn win. I think they'll start off Ivy League play 1-0, and hopefully continue to rack up wins from there. We've reached the end of our episode here, and the last episode of 2022, though we've only started this in November of 2022, so I guess it's not. You know what I mean. Any final thoughts for this episode and for 2022?
So if I could say one thing, I hope we can definitely continue this going. Thank you everybody for listening, even if it's only a few of you. We definitely enjoy having a platform to talk hoops, to talk Big Five. Hopefully we put some good stuff out there, and you guys all appreciate that. But yeah, it was I would say it was definitely a good year. I felt like this is like a relatively normal year. In terms of with COVID being in 2020, I kind of felt like this is a pretty normal year as far as just kind of being able to go about everything and not have COVID kind of the back of your head, which I thought was good. But yeah, I thought overall a good year. I mean, I graduated college. I'd say that's pretty big accomplishment.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say it was a good year for me. I hope it was a good year for everybody as well. From knowing you, Kyle, I think this is a very good year for you as well. So I think it was good. It's a good year to close the book on. Hopefully 2023 is even better, but hopefully we can keep doing this, and into 2023 we can keep giving you good content, and hopefully the Big Five. I think also this is a nice reset for them. Not a great now early, obviously Villanova made the Final Four. I guess there's that. Some Fran Dunphy comes out of retirement. I guess that's some good stuff, but also for this season, conference play just started. It's about to be the new year. Let's start fresh, and hopefully the Big Five can make a good run as 2023 opens here.
Yeah, clean slate for these Big Five teams in 2023. That's what we're gonna need. Yeah, great year for me. Honestly, blessed. I did a lot. Took a cross country road trip. It was a bucket list item. Had a dream job at NFL Films, and I like my job now too at Pixwise. Very good stuff here. Yeah, I mean, family's great, girlfriend's great, friends great, dog's great. Can't complain. Can't complain one bit. And I get to talk Big Five hoops with you every week, multiple times a week. So cannot complain whatsoever. Hope you guys have all had a blessed and great year, just as we have. And hopefully it continues even more so in 2023. Only blessings. So that's all I got. Thank you guys once again for tuning in and listening as always, as Cope just mentioned. And make sure you subscribe to YouTube, make sure you follow us on socials, Twitter and Instagram at Big Five Pod. Of course, listen to Spotify and Apple Podcasts for our audio only versions. And thank you for your support. We're gonna have much more for you guys in 2023. Have a safe, happy, and healthy new year. Oh, one more thing, just a quick PSA, public service announcement here. I say this every New Year's, wherever I can. If you are drinking, please do not step behind the wheel of a car. And if you're drinking, or even if you're not drinking, I guess, don't go with someone who has been drinking behind the wheel of a car. Uber exists, Lyft exists, literally anything. Call someone, call your parents, call your friends, call your cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, whatever. Someone will pick you up. You'll get home safe. You don't need to drive. Do not drink and drive. This is like one of the biggest drinking days of the year. Do not do it. That's
Right.
all I got to say. I just want to end on that.
No,
So
good on you for doing that. Good on you for
that's
doing
all I got to say. So yeah, that's all I got. Thank you guys once again for tuning in. And you ready for this one? You know I'm going with this one. We'll see you next year.